Welcome back to Birds of a Feather. This is your daily Baltimore sports podcast. My name is Nathan Stroud, and today we're going to be talking about the trade that just happened within the past 10 minutes for the Orioles, and that is that they have acquired Shane Baz from the Tampa Bay Rays. The Rays are kind of doing a fire sale right now. They just traded Brandon Lau earlier today, and then they just traded Shane Baz to a divisional opponent in the Baltimore Orioles. They just traded for him. The Orioles make yet another move. This is now the fourth move of the offseason for Mike Elias and the Orioles. Shout out to Mike, got this deal done. There were some rumors that this deal was kind of brewing throughout the day, and then it officially is now complete. The Orioles traded a pretty big haul of prospects that we're going to go over in just a second, but getting Shane Baz is going to really help this rotation. Obviously, going into this offseason, the big question was about the Orioles rotation and kind of just the state of the entire thing. We had obviously Trevor Rogers, Kyle Bradish, Cade Povich, Dean Kramer. Like, the starting rotation was not, it didn't really stand out at all. And especially with the Orioles going out and getting Taylor Ward and Pete Alonso, really proving that they want to go out there and win now and compete with how much they're upgrading their bats. Obviously, upgrading the pitching was the biggest thing that they needed to do going into this offseason, and this is now the second pitcher move and the fourth overall move that the Orioles have made. Obviously, they got closer Ryan Helsley earlier in the offseason, so they have their closer for the future already down, or they have their closer for this season already down. But getting Shane Baz, this is the first of hopefully many starting pitcher moves that the Orioles make. And when I say many, I'm not saying that they need to go out there and make 4 or 5 starting pitcher moves. But this hopefully is one of a couple starting pitcher moves that they make. What I will say initially is that I do like this trade. I do like this deal when you take into account that Shane Baz is 26 years old and he has 4 years left of control. He has 4 years of control on his contract, and he's 26 years old. That is a really good sign, and I do love that. And obviously that is kind of what drove up his price, and that's why we did have to give up quite a few prospects. But what's good about this trade is we still do have players and some prospects that we can still move for maybe another starting pitcher trade, maybe for a guy like Mackenzie Gore or Edward Cabrera as well. So, but this Shane Baz move is great. We're going to go over the prospects in a second, but the initial thing that I do want to say is that for me, in my opinion, I love this move for the now, and I love this move for the future moving forward, and this is definitely someone that can kind of develop and really become someone great over the next few years. And another thing that I'll say is this is kind of like the Grayson Rodriguez replacement in a way. Grayson Rodriguez obviously was 26 years old, and he had 4 years left to control, and he was a younger pitcher and someone that I think Orioles fans looked forward to down the line. And now that we traded him, Shane Baz comes in, 26 years old, 4 years left to control. Shane Baz is also somebody who has control, you know what I mean? So you look at the starting pitchers we have now. Trevor Rogers doesn't really have a lot of control. Kyle Bradish doesn't really have a lot of control. We haven't really locked down any starting pitcher for the future, but Shane Baz is going to be one of these pitchers where over the next few years he's going to be on the team and someone who can hopefully develop year by year. So I like that. I like the fact that he's a younger pitcher, and I like the fact that he has control on his contract, which is great. That's a great thing. And obviously that drove up the price. But what I will say is that, in my opinion, this is not enough of a needle mover to really kind of shift the Orioles starting pitching to another tier. I still think that the Orioles starting pitching staff in general is still pretty underwhelming when you look at the staff as a whole. I do think that it's still underwhelming even after this trade as it sits right now. Obviously, Shane Baz can develop over time. His stats this year were not anything crazy. I think he had a high 4 ERA, so his ERA wasn't really great, but he is a pretty big strikeout guy. I think he had 176 strikeouts in 166 innings, had a 10-12 record, but you can't really look at the record too much because he was on the Rays, who, were better than us, so, I really can't say anything. But, again, it's a solid move. It's a solid move. It's a pitcher that can develop and get better, and that's kind of what we're banking on here. But for me, I just do not think that this is going to be all that they do. I know that Mike Elias obviously wants to be extremely aggressive in free agency, and I think that Mike Elias has kind of made it known that he wants to make this free agency about the Orioles, it's pretty clear and obvious. I mean, they've gotten Ryan Helsley, they've gotten Shane Baz, they've gotten Pete Alonso, and they've gotten Taylor Ward. So they have had some pretty big acquisitions in this offseason, and it's clear that he wants to make this offseason about the Orioles, which is great. I love to hear that as a fan, obviously, and someone who talks about Baltimore sports every single day. But what I will say is that the job is not finished this offseason. If this is the only starting pitcher move that they make for the remainder of this offseason, I will be thoroughly, thoroughly disappointed in not the offseason in general, because we still made some great moves, but I will be thoroughly disappointed in Mike Elias and how he kind of operated the starting pitching market. Michael King yesterday did re-sign with the Padres, which was a very bizarre move. He was debating between the Orioles, Yankees, and Red Sox. One of the AL East teams were going to land him, and all of a sudden he re-signs with the Padres on like a 3-year deal with 2 opt-outs after 2026 and 2027. So very odd contract that Michael King signed, but he is off the board. He was one of the guys that I legitimately thought the Orioles were going to land him. But when you look at the starting pitchers that are still available in free agency, obviously we can still go out and move someone like a Kobe Mayo or a Ryan Mountcastle plus other prospects to go out and get maybe a Mackenzie Gore or an Edward Cabrera. That's always been on the table. But getting Shane Baz is great. This is someone who I think initially, as of right now, is going to kind of sit as our 4 or 5 guy in our rotation. But this is a guaranteed rotational piece, which is great to see. Because like before this trade, we had Rogers, we had Bradish, we had Kramer, and then we had like Povich and Wells. I think this obviously does kick one of Povich or Wells out, but he is going to be a 4 or 5 guy, maybe even the 3 guy. As of right now, Trevor Rogers and Kyle Bradish are still the 1 and 2, but Shane Baz can kind of fit into that mid to late half of that rotation, which is great. You need that. You need depth. You can never have enough starting pitchers in the MLB. So this move is great. I like it. It's fine. We're going to go over the prospects in just a second, but again, I just don't think this is enough of a needle mover to really put our pitching in another level. I do think that they still need to go out and make moves. I still think that Fromber is obviously on the table still. I think that Ranger Suarez obviously is still on the table. We've been in talks with starting pitchers, obviously, in terms of spending money and signing them. So I do not think that this is going to be it. Again, this is from a trade. This is not a free agent signing. This is the second trade the Orioles have made. I still think that the Orioles can go out and make another trade for a starting pitcher, or they can go out and sign one of the big dogs that are available. Tatsuya Mai, I don't even think we're on the board for. I think we're on the board, but I don't think we're like one of the finalists. But Fromber and Ranger are the 2 guys that I think are more likely to become Orioles. One of those 2. So we'll see what ends up happening there. Again, this hopefully is not the only move they make regarding starting pitching. They still need help even after this trade. I think that this trade is, again, for getting a guy that can be in the back half of that rotation or like the mid to back half of the rotation, and also somebody who has 4 years of control and is a younger pitcher and kind of is that Grayson Rodriguez replacement. But they still need to go out and get top-end starting pitching. But I think that this is still a great move, and I'm not complaining about it at all. I just want to see more. I'm not trying to sound greedy or anything, but top-end starting pitching was the thing that the Orioles were looking for the most, and a lot of those guys are still available right now, which they can still go out and get, or they can make a trade for someone. But I do like this move as it sets up for the depth of the starting pitching, for the back end of the starting pitching, and also the youth and the years of control for the starting pitching as well. But when we go over here and look at the official trade, the official full trade, obviously the Orioles get Shane Baz from the Rays. And when we go and look at what the Rays got in return, the Orioles traded Slater de Bruin, who was the number 6 prospect for Baltimore. They traded Caden Bodine, who was the number 10 prospect for Baltimore. They traded Michael Forret, who is the number 11 prospect. And they traded Austin Overn, who is the number 30 prospect. And a 2026 comp balance round A pick. I think that was pick 30. So we traded 4 prospects and a late first round pick. So, yeah, we gave up a lot. I'm not going to sit here and lie. I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, we didn't give up much. Oh, we fleeced the Rays. I'm not going to say that we fleeced the Rays. I think that in a way this is a To be honest, off a first look, the Rays looked like they obviously won this trade from just a prospect perspective. I mean, we traded 4 top 30 prospects and 3 top 11 prospects, and 2 top 10 prospects, obviously. So Slater DeBrun, number 6 prospect, Caden Bodine, number 10 prospect, Michael Fort, number 11 prospect, Austin Overn, number 30 prospect, and a comp balance pick. The balance pick doesn't really matter to me, but Slater DeBrun and Caden Bodine were 2 guys that, look, if we're going to be honest, they didn't really have a role with the Orioles long term. Caden Bodine was never going to have a role with the Orioles long term. But that's also why you go out there and draft best player available sometimes, even when you have that position, because they can be used as trade pieces. Caden Bodine is a catcher. He's an incredible catcher. But the Orioles already have Samuel Basayo and Adley Rutschman on their team, so there was no way that Caden Bodine, unless he was like the greatest thing since sliced bread, there was no way he was going to even have any opportunities on the Orioles. So this is honestly best for him moving forward. And again, getting Shane Baz, he's 26 years old. He has 4 years of control on his contract. That's why the value of this trade, and that's why the price of Shane Baz was so high, because of his age and his years of control on his contract. So, again, it sucks giving up these prospects. We did give up 4 pretty big prospects. I mean, 4 top 30 prospects and 3 top 11 prospects is a lot for Shane Baz. But again, this is someone who I think the Orioles are banking on for the future and the now, and someone who, again, is 26 years old and has 4 years of control. And the reason why I'm saying that so much is because that is the reason why this trade happened. Because if you go, and we're going to look at Shane Baz's stats in just a second, but if you go and look at his stats, they're not anything out of this world. He is a big strikeout guy. He is a big potential guy. And I love this move for the Orioles. But again, sometimes in the MLB, you're going to have to overpay for guys. Sometimes in the MLB, you're going to have to overpay for guys if you want them on your team. And it's very clear to me that the Orioles are being extremely aggressive in this offseason. They've already made 4 moves, and I think that there is still moves to go. I think if the Orioles go out there and make another starting pitching move for another solid player, or they go out there and sign one of the top starting pitchers available, I think after that it's going to kind of be the complete offseason for the Orioles. I think that they might go out there and get a couple of bullpen guys, like bullpen rotational guys. But this is a major move. You know, all the moves that the Orioles have made with Taylor Ward, with Pete Alonso, with Shane Baz, with Ryan Helsley, all of these moves have been major moves for the roster. And Shane Baz, again, helps with the depth, helps with the youth and the age of the starting pitching. Again, helps with the depth as a mid to back end rotational guy. But this is someone who could easily kind of creep up that starting pitching chart, the depth chart over the years. He's 26 with 4 years of control. That is why this price got driven up so much. And the Rays are kind of in a fire sale right now. They traded Brandon Lau. They traded Shane Baz. They're probably going to trade Yandy Diaz and some other guys as well. But getting Shane Baz is great. I love this trade for the Orioles. I love how aggressive Mike Elias is being. You know, we talked about it so much over this MLB season for the Orioles, how non-aggressive they were last offseason and how it really screwed them in this past season. It kind of came as a result of how bad the offseason was. You know, we settled for a lot of guys. We didn't sign any of the top guys available. We didn't keep up with other, teams in our division, and we suffered. You know, we were last place in the American League East, but the Orioles have put themselves in a good position here to be one of the better teams in the American League next season. And I can say that with confidence, especially after this trade. Again, depth, youth, all that stuff. But I don't think that the Orioles are done. Because if this is the only move they make for starting pitching, then we are still probably going to be mid. Because, again, starting pitching is such an important aspect of the MLB. And even if you have an amazing offense, which the Orioles are hopefully going to have this season after acquiring Taylor Ward and Pete Alonso, even if the Orioles, offense is amazing and one of the best lineups in the league, they still need the starting pitching as well to kind of complement that. And as of right now, they don't. They don't have the starting pitching with consistency and with trust to go with that. Obviously, Trevor Rogers next season can go out there and play like he did last year and be a Cy Young caliber player. Or even Kyle Bradish can have a fully healthy year and be amazing. Shane Baz can, make an improvement and be great. So all these things can happen, but in terms of like trust and depth with the starting pitching, there needs to be more done. And again, I'm not trying to sound greedy. I know I'm sounding greedy, Orioles fan, greedy, whatever. But realistically, when you go out and make a move like getting Pete Alonso and Taylor Ward, you want to be able to complement that offense with an amazing pitching staff. And the pitching staff did get a lot better today, but there is still room for improvement because the starting pitching staff was really bad. And it was the number one thing that needed to get improved. And this does help, but I just want to kind of make it clear that there is more, hopefully, to be done over the next, month or so throughout the offseason. But I do love this move. I am a big fan of this move. I'm a big fan of Shane Baz, and I'm going to go and watch some of his highlights later to make me even more excited. But I do like this move. I am happy with this move. I think we gave up a lot, but again, when you take into account the age and the years of control, it does make sense. And this is a big strikeout guy as well. And having good stuff as a starting pitcher and having, a big strikeout advantage is the thing that is going to make you valuable in the MLB. When you even go back and look at like Dylan Cease, for example, he's been he's been a really good pitcher over the years. But when you look at like this past season, his ERA and his win-loss was not great, but his strikeout stuff was there. And I think that if you have the strikeout stuff as a pitcher, no matter what your age is, I think that teams can kind of trust that they can develop you into a great pitcher, and they can kind of use that as like a future type thing. You know what I'm saying? Like they can kind of use that as a potential type thing in the MLB. But I do like this trade for the Orioles. I am happy with it. But let's go over his stats real quick. So if we go here and we look here at the stats of Shane Baz, he was top 25 in starting pitchers in terms of total strikeouts, and this is the first time that he's had a fully healthy season. He's only played 4 years in the MLB. He's going into his 5th year. He's actually from Houston, Texas, which is pretty cool. But again, 26 years old, 6'3", 200 pounds. He's a righty. But when we go over his stats of 2025, he pitched, he was a starter in 31 games this season, so fully healthy year, started 31 games this year for the Rays, 31 games started. He had a 10-2 record. He had a .4 WAR overall, but again, 10-2 record. He had a 4.87 ERA, which is concerning. This is the concerning part of Shane Baz, was his ERA. He had a 4.87 ERA, which is not good at all. I'm not even going to say mid. It's not good. Like, that is not a good ERA for a starting pitcher. So a 4.87 ERA. He had a 1.33. He had a 133 WHIP. He had 166 innings pitched in 31 starts. He had 166 innings pitched, and he had 176 strikeouts. So he was plus 10 in his innings to strikeout ratio. He also had 64 walks in 166 innings. And he gave up 158 hits, 90 total earned runs. But again, 166 innings, had a 4.87 ERA, had 176 strikeouts. So again, the strikeout numbers are there. He was top 24 in total strikeouts. But when we look at the wins, 10 wins is fine. The 12 losses isn't great. His ERA wasn't great. So he's coming off of not a great year. Again, the strikeout numbers were there. But when you look at his season as a whole, especially with this being his first year as a full-time starter, it wasn't great, but again, there is obviously a lot of room for improvement because, again, he is young and he has control on his contract for the Orioles. So over time, hopefully he does improve and get better. But when we look at 2024, 2022, and 2021, starting with 2021, in his debut year, he started 3 games that year. He obviously must have gotten called up late or something. But again, in 2021, very small sample size. He started 3 games, but he was 2-0 with a 2.0 ERA with 18 strikeouts in 3 starts. So again, he has the potential, obviously, to be great. 2022, he started 6 games. He was 1-2 with a 5 ERA, not great. But in 2024. We did see like a decent sample size out of Shane Baz. In 2024, he started 14 games in 2024. Started 14 games, was 4-3, and had a 3.06 ERA. So had a very, very good ERA. And then he had, 79 innings for 69 strikeouts. So like a minus 10 strikeout to inning ratio. But again, the strikeout numbers can be there. Obviously, we just saw a plus 10 innings to strikeout ratio. But we have, in 2024, he had a 3.06 ERA in 14 games started, which is really good. Like, that is a decent sample size and a really good ERA, and the strikeout numbers were kind of there. But in 2025, did have a down year, 4.87 ERA. Not great out of Shane Baz, but again, when you look at the potential, when you look at his age and stuff like that, he can definitely get better as a pitcher, and he does have the stuff, and he does have the potential to be a very good pitcher or a contributing pitcher on a very good roster. So, hopefully as time goes on with him as an Oriole, things get better for him. And his stats obviously get better, and his pitching obviously gets better. And there's a ton of room for improvement in that. But again, I like the move. I think that there is potential there. I'm happy about it. But again, as of right now, he's gonna kind of be that mid to back half rotation guy. And I think that Mike Elias knows that. He knows that this guy isn't going to come in and solve all the Orioles' problems. He does have to go out and get a Framber Valdez or a Ranger Suarez or a Tatsuya Mai or maybe even like a Zach Gallen or maybe trading for Mackenzie Gore and Edward Cabrera. So that kind of move still needs to happen. He knows that Shane Baz isn't going to come into the Orioles organization and flip it around and all of a sudden we have a top 10 starting pitching unit. But again, this is going to help the depth of the starting pitching. He's a guaranteed rotational guy in the back half of the rotation, and you take that. You know what I mean? You could, as I said earlier, you can never have enough starting pitching. So again, I don't mind this move for the Orioles, but there is hopefully more to come and some more big moves to come regarding the starting pitching. But this is a great start in terms of the starting pitching extravaganza that the Orioles hopefully are going to be on. But thank you guys so much for tuning into and listening to this episode of Birds of a Feather. If you like this content, make sure to subscribe on YouTube, follow up on Spotify. Make sure to click the link in the bio to check out the Twitter and the Instagram. I post all the time on Twitter. I post all my initial reactions thing on there. So make sure to give that a follow. I appreciate you guys so much. Thank you all so much for all the support. Again, big trade for the Orioles today. Gave up a lot of prospects for a young pitcher, but hopefully there is more to come regarding the starting pitching because this isn't going to solve all the problems. There still is more that needs to be done. But again, I appreciate you guys so much. I'll see you guys in the next episode. I'm going to have an episode up tomorrow going over the Ravens and Patriots game preview before the game, obviously, on Sunday night. So again, some Ravens content coming up the next couple of days. But again, we had to make this episode some breaking Orioles free agency news, which we've done quite a few times already over the past month or so with Pete and Ryan Helsley and Taylor Ward and all that stuff. So again, the Orioles offseason is going amazing, but there is still opportunities with the guys available and with the trades available and with the prospects and players we have. We still have the opportunity to get even better and make this offseason even better. But again, I appreciate you guys so much. I appreciate all of y'all. Thank y'all so much. I'll see you guys tomorrow. Have a great Day. Go O's, go Ravens, and I'll see y'all later. Peace out.